Hello everyone, this is Chess Coach Aaron. How you doing? It's Friday and I'm going to do another Grand Prix game video. But I only want to work on the beginning of the game. So I really don't want to do more than the first 10 moves or so. This is basically to help beginners because again, the beginning of a game, the opening of the game, I think that's the most important for beginners to really work on. And today's Friday, and we're wearing our team shirts. So here's my team shirt on. It's Team Shirt Fridays. For those who have the team shirts, you should be wearing them. All right. All right. So the Grand Prix. This is a game I played recently, and starts with E4 and good old C5 Sicilian, and I play Knight C3 again, trying to keep it closed. I'm not trying to open this game up. The closed Sicilian. Open Sicilian will be playing an early d4 and making a trade in the center and trying to open it up his way. But I'm trying to keep it closed. And again, I say this every Grand Prix video, but this is important. I'm trying to lock down d5 and make it hard for black to play d5 at some point. All right. And again, the most basic idea is to get a pawn duo in the center. And since I'm not using the d pawn, I'm going to be using the f pawn. Create that pawn duo that control the center. I like to call it a snowplow. All right, let's keep going. Here, black plays knight c6. And we've talked a lot about this already, but black has a lot of moves here. They have g6, e6, d6, even a6, knight f6, knight to c6, a lot of sixes. I've even had a couple games where people play an early e5, kind of trying to prevent me from playing f4 perhaps, and we'll go over that in another video. But one of the more common ones, maybe I think d6 is number one, knight c6 is the number two played move, and knight c6. Whenever I see that played at this point, I play an early, quick bishop to b5, and I try to trade it for this knight. I used to play f4 right away, move number three, very common for the Grand Prix. They don't even aim for h4 yet to aim for my king, so I get an early f4. And you can still just play that if you don't feel comfortable moving the bishop so early. That's fine. You can play f4, get the knight f3, and then move the bishop on move 5, and that's very common. But once I see my opponent go knight c6, I've been playing this more and more, where I want to trade and mess up their pawn structure and get this bishop out of the way. All right, so I played it, bishop b5, and they played e6. Soon as I can, if they don't do anything about it, I'm going to just take that knight. And they have two choices here. In the game, they took with the d pawn. I guess they wanted to give their queen more choices, make it stronger, makes a lot of sense, right? But normally, I think most of the time when I capture on c6, I actually face b takes. And that makes, I think, more sense because you are going towards the center. White has some options here. You can actually play an early e5. I actually don't anymore. I used to try this because you're covering d6 and you'll trade for this pawn, leaving these isolated and doubled. But by moving pawn, to e5, you're actually not accelerating your development. I really do like not moving my e4 and f4 pawns once I establish them until I'm really ready. I build up my snowplow. So I've kind of stopped doing that, though it does make some sense. Now, normally I would play f4, and because they took with the b pawn, they now can get in d5. Well, I'm not worried about their d pawn necessarily taking my e pawn, because I'll take back with the knight, and that will leave these isolated and weak. That's something black probably doesn't want to do, so I'm not worried about that. And if they leave the pawn here, which makes some sense, at some point I can still go forward. So I'm not worried about that either. And if they go forward, get that free move, that tempo, my knight will go to the side, but then it leaves c4 kind of weak in a certain way. For example, let's say they, let's see, where are we? Let's say after d5, I play knight f3, and oop, and let's say they go forward. I run to the side, and let's say they make a developing move. They could put the bishop in a6, bishop e7, knight f6. They have a lot of choices here. Let's just go with the simple one, bishop e7. Now, notice, c4 is becoming kind of a place that they just can't move their pawn to. It's like a weakness. It could even be a place that a knight can go to at some point down the road. And once they play b3, and there's no reason not to play b3, these pawns all get locked into place. Now, I still have my snowplow ready to go, the Grand Prix idea, and at some point I'm going to go forward. Meanwhile, their queenside structure has kind of been ruined and it's not going to go forward, especially after I get play b3. All right, let's back it up real quick. And again, bishop takes, they took with the d pawn. All right, so I play f4. I'm still playing my Grand Prix idea, and I'm trying to get this snowplow. We're not going to do too much of this game. It was they made a big mistake early on, and we'll get to that for sure. But it does happen. But I'm just talking about the opening, getting you guys prepared with the Grand Prix attack. In this position, so Black has some ideas. They actually played Bishop D6, which is a very, I think, very bad move. You're putting the bishop, and yes, they're aiming for a pawn that's not protected for a moment. But White's going to play D3 anyway, right? And then my bishop will protect this pawn, so it's not a big deal. But by putting this bishop on D6, you're inviting a free move forward at some point. E5, knight will jump to E4, and this is already a pretty good structure for White. So that's a free move down the road. Also, by putting the bishop on d6, I'm suspicious of where this knight's going to go. If it goes to f6, boom, there's a fork, and I actually will win some material. If they go to e7, again, when I go forward, now the bishop has to run back, probably c7, right? I go here, but yes, they do get f5, a place for the knight, but this bishop is really not going to be happy on c7. So again, I'm kind of suspicious. If my queenside knight can come over to the king side, right? That's another piece on top of everything else. Meanwhile, they're going kind of away from being in front of the king. I like this as White. I like this a lot. All right, so they played bishop d6, which I think is a mistake. So what could they play? Well, first let's double check, because whenever they play an early e6, that allows their queen access to h4, right? So if we're playing f4, are we worried about queen h4 check? Well, the answer is you have to be ready for it. You have to be paying attention. Your eyes have to be on the board, but you should not fear it. The one thing it does, of course, is it's going to make you play g3, which is not really part of the Grand Prix idea. And since you've already traded away your light squared bishop, you don't have a bishop for g2. But it's actually not a big problem playing g3. You're actually chasing the queen away. Can the queen go to h3? No. Can the queen stay on h4? No. Can it go to h5? No. Well, it could go to h6. Well, that's a bad spot. You're lining up with this bishop. Don't like it. So now where can the queen go? Let's keep going. Can it go to g4? Well, same issue as h5. The answer is no. Can't go to g5. All right, it could go to f6. But now you're taking away a possible square from the knight, and you're setting this up for a future free move expansion. The queen is in the way, just the target. And finally, if the queen goes to e7, what about this bishop? Where's the knight going? And it gets to become very, very, what we call cramped. All the black pieces are on top of each other. Not very good. So the truth is, the queen, really, its best move would be to run right back home. So you're actually giving not White just one free move with g3. You're actually giving him two free moves by doing this. You ready? And this is the funny moment. When White played f4, it is Black's turn. Now, after queen h4 check and g3, boom, the queen hasn't really moved, and now it's White's turn. So we have a free move, and it's White's turn. One more time. Black's turn. White's turn. Black's turn. White's turn. I mean, I love showing the change in the position with the free moves. It just kind of makes me laugh. That's all. All right, we're actually almost done with this game because, again, they played bishop d6, which is kind of a mistake. Well, I wanted to show you real quick what would happen if they played knight f6, which might be a little bit better. The normal line would be d3, bishop go to e7, knight f3, normal moves, right? Castle. I would probably, I mean, you could castle, but I'd probably play a4 first. I think this is a moment to throw in one move, make it a little bit harder for them to play their b5 queenside expansion, and have to do two moves. I always like playing one move when it makes my opponent do at least two moves. So sometimes I'll make one move on the queen side of the Grand Prix, but normally we want to deal with the king side. That's really our big plan here. But anyway, so a4, I'd throw that in. They play rook b8. They still want to get in b5. Why not? I castle. They play a5. Notice, if they play b5 right away, I'm going to take, and the pawn is loose. So they play a5 first, which makes sense. They're expanding on the queen side also, and now they can get ready for the b5. Looks like a nice pawn storm and space on the queen side. And now, whoops, whoa, did not mean to go over there. And now, let's back up position. They just played a5. Now I play simply knight e5, and this is a great spot for the knight in these type of positions. The black knight, the one that might fight it off, has actually already been traded away. I took it, right? With my bishop takes on c6. And with my knight here, I now have ideas of pawn g4, rather. pawn g5, and now once we chase the knight away, queen going to h5, and then you have the simple, yet you should think very common idea of rook up to work with the queen and make a battery. And that's a lot of arrows on the king side. One more time. Pawn go forward, chase this knight away. Queen now can get to h5, and behind that we have the rook supporting the queen, and hopefully we get a checkmate. Seems simple, doesn't it? All right, let's just finish up these moves real quick because Yashi played bishop d6, very bad move. I played d3 normal, and I'm waiting to see where the knight goes, knight e7. I'm like, that can't be a good spot. It's getting very cramped already. And knight f3, and now they made a super big blunder. And it seems to happen a lot in a Grand Prix. What does black do with their queen? Well, most of the time they can wait for my queen to show up in h4. But many times they start to play moves early, and yes, two things are attacking this f-pawn, right? They have a battery. But of course, after simply e5, I just trapped the bishop. All right, so that's as far as I want to go with this Grand Prix game. Great job looking at it. We'll do another Grand Prix shortly. Again, I just want to do like the first 10 moves, get you guys ready. I think that's the most important start of the game, the beginning of the game, the opening for beginners. And as you guys know, Coach Aaron likes to do a joke at the end of every class. So I'm trying to do that for every video when I remember. I love jokes. All right, real quick, let's get it done. So this is a tough one. This is a holiday one. Why does Santa Claus have 3 gardens? Santa Claus. You know, he only works one day a year, really, so he has a lot of time in the garden. Why does he have 3 of them, though? Well, for those who know Santa, that's because he likes to ho, ho, ho. One more time, Santa likes to ho, ho, ho. And again, I try not to clean any of my jokes. If you're not sure why that's funny about gardening, maybe someone else will try to explain it to you. Otherwise, enjoy the Grand Prix game, and Coach Aaron out. Peace.